Good morning and welcome to former state senator and now legislative candidate from District 46. Thank you, Senator Conrad, for joining us for our virtual legislative candidate meetings. My name is Gina Ragland, and joining me today are AARP lead advocacy volunteers Susan DeCamp, Joyce Beck, Danny DeLong, and June Ryan. It's also my privilege to have with us today AARP Nebraska State President David Holmquist, and Emily Wick is also joining from our office to assist with the technical details for the program. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared with AARP members across your district prior to the election. Danielle, we appreciate your taking the next 30 minutes of your time to meet and discuss issues of importance to the 50+ voter and their families in your district and across Nebraska. As background, AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering and strengthening people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. As people live longer, healthier lives, we know we need to think differently about what it means to age. So Danielle, if you want to start us off by giving us a little background about yourself and your campaign in about 5 minutes or less, that would be great. And once we've completed your opening, we'll move into the question portion. So with that, Danielle, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Gina. And please help me keep an eye on the time sometimes when we get going. And I don't want to throw our ambitious agenda off today, so we have time to cover everything. But thank you so much to Gina and Dave and to the leadership and membership of AARP. It's great to reconnect with you all. And as you already well know, your leadership is so well respected and so engaged in the legislative arena and in communities across Nebraska. So it's definitely a real blessing to have them representing your interests. My name's Danielle Conrad. I'm originally from rural Seward, Nebraska. I've been here in Lincoln since 1995. I came to Lincoln to attend the University of Nebraska, like a lot of young people, and I got my degree in political science from UNL. I then went on to receive my Juris Doctorate from UNL College of Law in 2003. And I really first got the political spark, the political bug from that historic governor's race back in the 80s when Kay Orr and Helen Busalis were running against each other. And I was a young elementary school student who just had that lightning bolt moment watching, I think, Mel Maines interview them on Channel 1011. So I volunteered for Helen's campaign, and after the election, my candidate was unsuccessful, but we had a chance meeting, and Helen was gracious enough to come out to my country school, and we had Helen Busalis Day, and we talked about government and politics and public service. And from that point forward, Helen became a friend and a mentor to me. And was with me when I kicked off my first campaign for the legislature back in 2006. So she always has a special place in my head and my heart, and I know a special place in this organization as well. But I have worked as a public policy attorney. I have worked as a nonprofit executive. I have served for 8 years as the Nebraska state senator. And I've continued to be engaged in policy advocacy and civil rights litigation over the past 8 years. I live in North Lincoln with my husband, who's a small business owner, and our 2 kids who are very busy, who are 10 and 6 and attend Riley Elementary School. But I decided to jump back into electoral politics after I was term limited in 2014, and then after leading a civil rights organization for the last 8 years, because I was very concerned about the direction of our state and our country. And I saw the clouds gathering on the political horizon with that very raucous gubernatorial primary that we had here in Nebraska. And I thought, instead of just furrowing my brow or shaking my fist at the headlines, I truly believe that we each have our part to do individually and collectively to make a positive difference. And I thought that if I could utilize that unique legislative experience that I have from 8 years of service and 20 years of active participation in the legislative arena to make a positive difference now with term limits and key retirements impacting our Nebraska legislature, that I just had to try. So I made a very late entry into the race with about 2 hours to spare on filing day. And in just about 8 weeks, with a lot of hustle and a lot of support from my friends and neighbors, I was able to secure a first place finish in a 3-person race with a 5-point spread. So that was very affirming and humbling. And I've continued to work hard throughout the summer to leverage that forward. And my message of positive experience leadership is, I think, really resonating with voters and with stakeholders across the spectrum and across the political spectrum and across the state. So if you're ever feeling down about the state of our politics or otherwise, I highly encourage you to go out and knock on the door of about 2,000 or so of your neighbors, Republicans, Independents, Democrats, and hear what's on their minds. And I think you'll find that there's so much more that binds us together as Nebraskans, and we're so close in wanting the same things. We may have slightly different priorities or different solutions to the challenges before us, but there's so much common ground there. And I'm really excited to be able to help build some bridges in the Nebraska legislature, if honored to be elected for the 3rd time.
Perfect. Thank you, Danielle. We'll move in now. We've provided you ahead of time a set of 3 issues that contain 4 questions pertaining to the 50+ in Nebraska. We're looking to allot about 5 minutes for each of the questions. So our first question today is on health, caregiving, and home and community-based services. And Susan DeCamp is going to take that one. So Susan, go ahead.
Good morning, Senator, and thank you for spending time with us today. As you know, home and community-based services, also known as HCBS, provides an array of services designed to assist individuals with activities of daily living that promotes independence to support them to age in place or delay institutional care. A family caregiver is any family member, friend, or acquaintance who cares for another person that is unable to live independently and often provides that care without pay. Telehealth services can be significant for older adults in rural areas in particular or underserved communities, while also providing support to family caregivers by reducing travel, wait times, and costs associated with in-person care. So we have 2 questions on that topic for you. The first question is, what will you do to support the 240,000 unpaid family caregivers in Nebraska through policies such as enhanced respite services, access to telehealth, caregiver education and training, and help with out-of-pocket costs? And the second question, what will you do to protect or expand the home and community-based services program, particularly recruitment and retention of a sufficient workforce and adequate funding of the services that Nebraskans and their families rely on?
Great. Thank you so much, Susan. And definitely familiar with a lot of these issues and with a lot of these programs and services. And it's been always a true honor to work hand in glove with organizations and individuals like AARP to strengthen our healthcare safety net to ensure that it's meeting the needs of all Nebraskans, and particularly Nebraskans who are aging. So when it comes to doing that, and a lot of the solutions were noted right in your question, I think. So thanks for giving us an answer there as well as a question. But I think that what's really important to remember, and what's at the heart of each of these kind of key issues, are a couple of things that I wanted to share some ideas about. One, we know from anecdotal information, the storytelling, and from the data, which align in this regard, that when people can stay at home and live independently, it's a value for the taxpayer, and it has an enhanced quality of life for the individual as well. So those are 2 critically important policy goals that are really aligned when we can support independent living. And that's why I've always been a strong advocate for expanding the healthcare safety net in Nebraska for those very reasons. Of course, I think with the pandemic, we also have perhaps newfound appreciation and sense of caregiving responsibilities that so many Nebraskans face, whether that's for younger people, people who are differently abled, or people who are aging. And we've seen the flexibility sometimes that remote work can play in terms of helping people to meet those caregiving responsibilities. But as you know, so much of that unpaid labor is unpaid, and there's an emotional component to caregiving as well, in addition to the dollars and cents. And so I think that it's really important that we have strong leaders who are familiar with these issues and programs and processes. And if honored to be elected for the third time, I would have the second most seniority in the body behind only Senator Aguilar. So that would position me uniquely to secure key leadership positions on things like the Appropriations Committee, where I spent the 8 years of my prior service, and that can help to make significant investments in strengthening and expanding these very programs that we've all worked so hard to put in place and grow over the years to meet ever-changing needs in our public policy and our demographics. Additionally, I've worked very hard with a lot of stakeholders in the healthcare sphere to ensure that we're addressing our nursing shortage and crisis by building up training and educational facilities, loan repayment programs and opportunities, and incentives to make sure that we can recruit and retain those top healthcare professionals, particularly in the nursing sphere across the state, whether they're providing home care or institutional care or hospital care or otherwise. So I think really what it comes down to is ensuring that we're utilizing this historic opportunity that Nebraska has with increased federal funds due to COVID relief and some other programs, and state general fund taxes, which continue to outpace projections month over month over month. So of course, we need to be careful stewards of those taxpayer dollars, whether they're federal or state dollars, but we have a strong cash reserve, and we need to make historic investments to really change the face of Nebraska and enhance quality of life for all. So I think having knowledgeable leaders on the Appropriations Committee who can make those investments and be strong champions can go a long way to strengthening those programs.
Great, thank you, Danielle.
Thanks, Danielle. Our second question now centers around nursing facility quality. So we're going to switch we're living in our homes with home and community based, but now we're going to go into actual facility care. Joyce Beck is going to take that question. So go ahead, Joyce.
Good morning, Senator. Over 20,000 Nebraskans require care in nursing facilities or assisted living communities. Facilities have closed their doors, citing reimbursement challenges and staffing shortages. Nebraska will need an additional 4,700 more nursing assistants, LPNs, and RNs by 2028 to meet Nebraskans' care issues. Anyone, regardless of where they reside, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect and have access to quality health care. Better staff to resident ratios improve the overall quality of care and well-being of residents. Workforce recruitment, retention, and job satisfaction challenges are prevalent across the long-term care services and the support industry. Because of workforce challenges must be identified and implemented to respond to the growing need for high quality care. So my question, Senator, to you is this: what will you do to improve the quality of nursing facility care for Nebraska residents, including addressing the growing long-term care workforce crisis in the state, professional education and training, and accountable facility reimbursement?
Thank you so much, Joyce. Again, I appreciate there's so many solutions in the questions that you present, but I think it's not a surprise to anyone that one of the most significant challenges facing, of course, the long-term care healthcare community and Nebraska's workforce in general is workforce. Having a low, very, very low, historically low unemployment rate definitely is a blessing and a curse when it comes to impacting our economy and our communities. So of course, the healthcare workforce is impacted by this. I was pleased to see under the leadership of Senator Stinner, Wishart, and others, a significant increase in terms of provider rate reimbursements in the last biennial budget, utilizing some of those historic revenues from both state and federal sources. Those are really important investments that help to address some of the need. But of course, we know that they don't go far enough in terms of meeting the actual needs and providing those care and services. And when it comes to reimbursement rates, those really, I think, are a critical solution to retain and recruit a top quality workforce. When support staff in long-term care facilities and in the healthcare industry in general are competing with retail and restaurant that are paying historic wages and things like that, or more remote work opportunities that might be attractive to the workforce, it's really important. It's not the only solution, but it's really important that we have those, that each of those care facilities has the resources available to compensate the workforce to recruit and retain top professionals. I think additionally, there's multifaceted solutions and multifaceted challenges in terms of this workforce issue facing so many in Nebraska, including the healthcare industry. So a piece of it has to be related to thoughtful public policy to remove any barriers to qualified people who can provide care and services, whether that's reciprocity with licensure, whether that's looking hard at fees or other kinds of things that might be able to be waived to help more people engage in the training and education requisite to attain those kinds of licensures in key targeted industries where we know we have a big issue, whether that's building up education and training programs through our community colleges or our institutions of higher education, and ensuring, of course, that we have parity when it comes to reimbursement for telehealth or in-person care, which goes back a little bit to the other question versus this long-term care piece, but is, of course, a part of the puzzle. And thinking really carefully about what we can do as state policymakers to work collaboratively with our counterparts on the federal level to move forward with, say, for example, comprehensive and thoughtful immigration reform, which I think has to be a piece of the puzzle when it comes to addressing Nebraska and other states' workforce needs. And then there may be additional things that we can do for incentives or loan forgiveness or bonuses to help really provide some additional compensation to people who are doing that hard work in the human service industries that also can be very physical and very emotional, but is so critical to our quality of life and being able to keep our doors open in those facilities across Nebraska. And so I think it's really a multifaceted kind of approach that we need to look at for workforce development, immigration reform, education and training, reimbursement, bonus, retention, loan forgiveness, and then doing all that we can in terms of reducing fees or barriers to the employment sphere.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Our last question, of course, of the day, just because of our time constraints, but comes specifically around livable communities and helping people stay in their home. And so Danny DeLong is going to take that one. So go ahead, Danny.
Hi, good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to meet you, even if it's by Zoom. It's great.
Okay.
I've heard so much about you. So AARP has consistently polled this number. It's come up consistently when people over 50 are asked where they'd like to live as they grow older. 75% of them say in my home, in my community where I know people and have friends and neighbors and family. And our one of our main policy goals is to facilitate that desire. So what you're hearing with our questions are the types of services that help people stay in their homes. And we define that as a livable community. One, it's safe and secure. Two, it offers affordable housing and transportation options that allow individuals to travel by multiple means. Three, provides supportive community features and services such as access to healthcare and access to high-speed internet. Those are important for people to be able to stay in their homes, whether they live in Omaha or they live in Whitney, Nebraska, out in the Northwest. So affordable transit options are critical to support older Nebraskans aging in place. I'm sure you're aware of that. You've worked on that, I'm sure. High-speed internet should be affordable, reliable, and accessible for all Nebraskans. Digital skills development, also known as digital literacy, is also essential to obtaining the benefits of high-speed internet access in the home. So our question is, and we're kind of repeating the solutions that were in our question, as you pointed out to us. What will you do to ensure that all Nebraskans, mainly those 50 plus and over, have access to livable communities which offer affordable housing, diverse transportation options, adequate health care, and affordable, reliable, and accessible high-speed internet, including digital skills development?
Thank you so much, Danny. And I wish every group had those kinds of questions framed with all of the answers. That's so helpful. But of course, speaks to your policy acumen and willingness to provide solutions to a lot of these challenges, and always being such a credible source of information. But to answer your question, Danny, you're exactly right. I've had an opportunity to work on those issues as an 8-year member of the Appropriations Committee, again, hand in glove with the AARP and others, whether that's increasing investment in multimodal transportation, handy van programs, public transportation, buses, those kinds of services that play a little bit differently in urban and rural settings, but are so important to literally being a lifeline so that people can enjoy their communities and take care of their needs, whether that's healthcare visits or going to the grocery store or going to religious services or participating in educational opportunities in the town square, or at the public library, or cultural offerings. So it's always been an important issue for me to increase funding to meet those needs in urban and rural settings. Been really proud to work as a strong supporter of things like the Meals on Wheels program and protecting those kinds of critical programs and services that really are a lifeline, not only in terms of meeting basic needs, but also addressing, I think, isolation, which can happen sometimes. And of course, we saw on full display during the pandemic as well. As we work to keep each other and our communities safe, that social isolation really has impacts that I think we're still grappling with and will be working through for some time. But making sure that we're looking in on each other, that there's a trusted community partner or family partner or neighbor or somebody providing those programs and services to see how we're doing, to see if there's a need for additional help, just to perhaps visit or offer a kind word in addition to helping to connect people to those critical services in their communities. All of those things don't always show up on a balance sheet or in a budget, but I know they're important from talking to my neighbors about how critical those services can be and how much people enjoy them when they have a chance to interact with people on the handy van or at the library or going about those daily activities and connecting with their trusted bus driver or what have you, or connecting with the person who brings their Meals on Wheels and developing relationships that way. So it's got both the human services piece and the kind of the intangible in terms of community connections and relationships kind of piece as well. So again, Nebraska has continued to make strides in improving our connectivity when it comes to the internet and high-speed internet in particularly. And we saw an investment, significant investments, tens of millions of dollars in recent years with the federal relief funds and otherwise to try and address some of those underserved communities and areas to ensure that everybody has access to the information superhighway, which is a critical part of, again, community connectedness, banking, healthcare, being involved in public life and staying connected with friends and neighbors. So we need to continue down that path of making those investments. And then once we have the infrastructure in place, to your point, we need to make sure that people are empowered to know how to access it and utilize it to best meet their needs and protect it against nefarious forces as well, right? To be aware of how to spot elder abuse, to be aware of how to be thoughtful about potential financial exploitation and otherwise. And those are lessons we can all learn, of course, but have particular emphasis and importance for older Nebraskans who many times are the target of those scams and can, really impact identity theft or even financial well-being. I know we're actually working through that issue in our own family very recently. And so we've seen those impacts firsthand, and in making sure we have strong education, empowerment, and a safety net to help identify and prevent those kinds of abuses and problems, and then enforcement when people do take advantage of or exploit Nebraskans through those means, whether that's working with the Consumer Protection Office at the Attorney General's office, the Better Business Bureau, or the Banking Association, or otherwise. So working to ensure that we have access to programs and services, multimodal transportation, Meals on Wheels, financial access, or internet access, and empowerment and education to know how to participate responsibly as a global citizen. I think all of those pieces are really, really important. Another piece that goes into that protection is work that I've been proud to be a part of in building up the Office of the Public Guardian to make sure that we have thoughtful protections in place to help meet Nebraskans' need who may be targeted for financial or otherwise exploitation if they don't have a caregiver or a trusted person who can provide that role in their life. And I think we've seen major improvements in that infrastructure in Nebraska. The final piece I'll just want to note too is, of course, making improvements when it comes to tax equity and policy, whether that's the exemptions for Social Security, strengthening and expanding our homestead exemption. I've always been supportive of those measures and have been glad to see the legislature continue to make progress in those regards.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate your response today.
Thank you, Senator. And I do have to bring up, I always appreciate when someone recognizes homestead exemption, because that is a huge priority for us, a protection priority, but also there's so many people that don't understand the concept. So we do appreciate your bringing that up as well. So Senator, we are coming to the end of our meeting and our time here.
It's so fast.
I know. I would like to offer you the final couple minutes here for any closing thoughts, comments, whatever you might have to say to your members or our members and the constituents in your district. And again, if you just the last couple minutes here, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Well, thank you again, Gina, Danny, David, Joyce, Susan, Emily. So much help with the tech stuff that we all need. And June, great to connect with you again. I was thinking a lot about, of course, Mark Innermill and Connie Benjamin and so many incredible people that have been at the helm of AARP and the incredible work and legacies that they've left as well. So thank you for the opportunity to participate. Thank you for all that you do. There's no doubt many of the issues that you rightly raise as priorities are significant issues, are intersectional policy issues. are longstanding challenges for us in Nebraska. And I think it really helps to illustrate a lot of why I'm in this race. It takes a long time to get up to speed on the issues and the process and the rules, and to build relationships with people across the political spectrum and across the state in order to achieve good public policy. You have to have that knowledge and experience and those relationships to be able to really make a positive difference. So I'm uniquely positioned to be a day one leader in the Nebraska legislature because of that knowledge and experience of the issues and the process, and because of those rich relationships that I've fostered in the legislative arena for almost 20 years, including 8 as a state senator. And I want to be clear that my relationships are not frozen in time from 2014, but as an active participant in the legislative process in the 8 years since, I've been fortunate to stay very engaged and have built relationships with many of the returning senators as well. I think it's really important to remember from that process, and what I've learned again on the campaign trail this go around, is that just because we may have different ideas, just because we may have different solutions, just because we may have different priorities, it doesn't mean that we have to dislike each other. It means that we can and we should have robust debate to find common ground, to find common sense solutions to help us and our state move forward. And it takes a lot of life experience to help do that in a really effective way. So I'm excited to use my unique talents, energy, and experience to help bring down the temperature, to help provide a bridge across the political spectrum, and to really provide, I think, a stabilizing opportunity in being a strong leader on appropriations, if honored to be elected and honored to be selected for that spot, and other key places like executive board, rules, or committees on committees, which are going to see a lot of changes in the next legislative session. And it's critically important that we protect that beloved nonpartisan institution right out of the gate. And there's been a lot of attacks and a lot of discussion about changing the rules and changing the institution, which I think would be a detriment to Nebraska. I think very few people, including myself, want to see more partisanship in government. I think people want to see less partisanship and more opportunities to work together. So I'm uniquely positioned to protect our institution, and that helps to ensure good public policy for all Nebraskans. Thank you so much for your time. People can check out the website and social media and all of those things. And of course, the campaign flyers and phone calls will be gearing up as we get closer to Election Day. And it's just been a complete honor and joy to be out knocking on doors for the last many months and to meet people where they are at and hear what's on their minds. And I'm excited about the campaign and excited about an opportunity to serve my state again.
Thank you again, State Senator Danielle Conrad, for taking the time to visit with us.
That's so nice.
You're busy. We wish you the best with your campaign, and thank you again for meeting with AARP.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Danielle.
Danielle.
Bye,
Thank you so
Senator.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.